before we kick off, cellular health for me is one of the most important things of all, because if you haven't got the right nutrients in your cell, or you've got toxicities in the cell, then you're not going to operate properly. It's almost like our engine. So here we go. Jess, if you could introduce yourself.
Is this working? Yes. Hi, I'm Jess Kane. I am the CMO of Body Bio. Body Bio is a company that was started by my grandfather, so I have been passionate about cellular health and cell membrane medicine since I was about 5 years old. So it's something that just runs in my family and in my blood. Cellular health, to me, if we're going to start on the first question, really starts with the health of our cell membrane. And I think it's something so minute, and there's so many trillions of cells in the body, and we don't often think about the effects of our world. I think we're learning so much at this conference about all those environmental toxins coming our way every day, and those affect our cell membrane. And that cell membrane is responsible for intracellular communication. It's responsible for the health of the cell within it. So for me, cellular health really starts on the membrane and keeping our membranes healthy. And it's something I'm really passionate about, and at Body Bio, it's our mission to help people get healthier one cell at a time.
Amazing. Oh, I forgot. I've got a microphone right here. I was waiting for the microphone. Hi, guys. I'm Justin McGuire. I run and help people through autonomic coaching. And when it comes to the topic of cellular health, it's a very intimate topic for me. A lot of my work requires the rehabilitation of people that are afflicted with addictions, depression, ADHD as such. And I truly believe it's because of the dysfunction that happens on a cellular aspect that causes these symptoms or pathologies to come into existence. One of the biggest reasons why cellular health is important to me is I feel that it's the only objective way in which we can identify what is actually happening through quantum physics impact on our bioresonance. And I'll explain to you guys what exactly that means. We are made up of photons. We are light beings, and we express energy through light. And the way in which our mitochondria and organelles interact through that process enables us to be in a state of matter, or the perception of matter and existence. So through identifying components of function or dysfunction through cellular health, we're able to improve in the way in which our biophysics representation of energy is able to take proper effect, giving you a better opportunity to live longer, but also to have a more vital existence during the lifespan. Thank you.
Cool.
How to follow after that?
So I'm Ryan Carter. I am a registered nutritional therapist. Not currently anywhere, but currently here right now. In terms of living, I help people around the world to achieve optimal health, removing the obstacles, blocking them in the way for whatever goals they have, whatever issues they have. And again, various different clients, different needs. So it's all customized, personalized, and that's essentially what I do. In terms of cellular health, I see it as a lot what Justin said, but simplistically it would be trying to make order out of chaos, essentially. So when Justin's talking about light hitting our bodies, when we're talking about food hitting our guts, when we're talking about thoughts being secreted from our brain, we need to organize this, and we organize this in every single cell of the body, communicating locally, communicating peripherally, and again, our communication to others as well. And we express that with light, with basically various different energy waves, and it all starts within, inside. So that's my cellular health take.
Awesome. Good one, guys. So can you, I guess obviously we're just going to run through some questions what we've prepared here. So guys, I'll ask you one by one, starting with you, Jess. So can you get all your microbiology needs purely from food, or are supplements a necessity?
I think we can all agree that the food of today is not the food of 100 years ago, and so the answer for that is no. I think there's also different forms. I mean, you can eat a diet it depends on what nutrients you're looking for within the cell, and I think we'll all cover different nutrients for cellular health and recommendations for cellular health. If you're looking at the healthy fats and oils that make up that 60% of our brain matter, this is just focusing on the brain, I don't think we do, because you would need to be eating eggs every day, which are a saturated form of phospholipids, and you would need to be getting essential fatty acids. You need to be eating a diet that has enough cholesterol, that balance of cholesterol, saturated fats, protein, all of these things that make up our cells, our cell membrane. And that's not even thinking about the stuff that's within a cell that you guys, I'm sure, will cover. But I don't think we can anymore. And I think that it's something that's a shame. It's part of the world that we live in. But I think once we can look at that and say, like, what do we have to do to maintain our cellular health in the face of all of these stressors and the fact that we cannot get this from our diet? How do we move forward from there? So I think I think diet is the first place you start, and then you move on from there.
What about you, Justin? Do you think we can?
Well, I think we first have to ask ourselves a question as to how much electron interference that we're dealing with in a daily question. And when we come to understand the vast magnitude of toxic and salt that we're actually creating in our bodies, we also understand that even if we were to have the same resource of mineral density, nutrient density that our forefathers had 100 years ago, we have a very different environment and demand to contend with the oxidative impact of that environment. So my answer to that question is dependent upon the environment in which you're living in within the world, and dependent upon the bioresonance impacts of different stimuli that you're imposed or that is imposed upon you, would determine whether or not you have a supplemental need. And this comes back down to my emphasis about always test, don't guess whether or not you're going to need a supplement, and always identify in which phase you need to introduce a supplement. One of the biggest mistakes that I see with people with taking supplements is that they go gung-ho. And Justin and I spoke about this earlier. Supplements are very powerful, and although they don't have the pharmaceutical label to them, they need to be respected, and they need to be introduced at the right time within your entire cellular matrix, and how the function is occurring on the cellular level from the organelles to the membrane and the entire complexity of our photon makeup as a whole. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, just to lead off Justin, what he was saying. Is exactly right. So I focus largely on the environment, because that is actually going to be influencing the dance between how these biochemical reactions are working, how these enzymes are influencing these cofactors, coenzymes, and that comes largely through like light, water, and magnetism, and that's like the electromagnetic field. So again, like you can flood your body, you can buy the premium petrol for your car, but again, like how's that going to work if your tires are flat, if your brakes are faulty, you can't even see the dashboard, there's too much exhaust emissions. So again, it's about efficiency, and sure, there's scope for supplements. You can test, you can measure these things, you can bring some awareness in, and go from there. So I do think it has a time and place. We can always get caught up with, it's just going to add it in, it's suddenly going to work. But in an ideal setting, our environment is optimal, our food is great, there's low stress, we're downloading, we're doing all these fundamentals, and things work for themselves. And sure, there might be a snip, there might be some influence from your mother, from birth, traumatic injury. So again, there's always context. So time and place.
I agree. And I think, actually, just to add something in here, I think, as I discussed in my talk yesterday, the future of health, or where things are going, is individualization and personalized nutrition, and looking at on an individual basis. So for one person, it might be fine to just eat normal food without anything.
What does that mean?
Exactly. I mean, you can't even buy vegetables that haven't got chemicals all over them these days. So, but and someone else might have loads of nutrient deficiencies in the cell, and therefore need to supplement specifically. So I think this is really where it's going.
I think it's also very difficult to find those right tests. You know, the testing ground. When you say test before you guess, how do you test for cellular health? It's a very difficult, nuanced thing that most people do not encounter until they're struggling with chronic illness or they're terminally ill, that they're really getting to the point of finding the right practitioner to address their cellular health. And where we're really trying to change the paradigm is, let's look at that first. So let's not just, it's not about, guessing what supplements you need. It's about, how do you feel? What's going on in your life? What are the stressors? Even just being back in London, I lived here for 10 years, being back here and feeling like there's just so much going on from a city. I live on the beach now. It's so relaxing, and just recognizing that, like, how is that affecting my cellular health? Because that has an impact, a massive impact that Justin and I were speaking about earlier. And you notice it when you're in other places. So it's really just taking care of yourself as well.
For sure. So I'll start with you on this one, Jess. So what nutrients are needed to protect the cells and rebuild them?
I don't know if any of you have ever researched Bruce Lipton's work with the importance of the cell membrane. If you haven't, it's wonderful.
Can we have a
Look
show of
into it.
hands? Who's heard of Bruce Lipton?
Yeah. So for all of those who have not, it's really integral work into the importance of the cell membrane. Your DNA is like the architect. It doesn't do anything within the body. It's the cell membrane is what actually is responsible for the action of our cells. And so my number one most critical supplement for everyone is phospholipids. It's what makes up the bilipid layer that is the skin of our cells. And when there's a breakdown in phospholipids, which there are, we don't synthesize them as well as we age, but also there's a breakdown with every environmental toxin that's coming your way. So to strengthen those cells, that's always my number one recommendation is phospholipids.
It's actually how we first
Yep.
got in contact, is because a speaker from 2019 told me about phospholipids.
Yeah.
He said, you got to use this Body Bio stuff, actually. So I brought some and then did an Instagram post about it. And then they reached out to me and said, oh, wow, you know this stuff. It's like, this is awesome. And then we started speaking from there. So
it's complex. And I think that it's something that's a little difficult to understand because it's a little bit of a hazy world out there. And like I was talking about on Instagram recently, phospholipids aren't trendy. They're not cool. But for biochemistry nerds, they're fascinating. And it's something that's so integral to our health.
Yeah, I have to add on to that. I also have to add minerals. You know, the availability of minerals is so very important. If you think about nutrients, minerals provide us probably the most dense availability of electrons that can be donated and utilized for a whole vast magnitude of different photon effects on a cellular level. And yes, managing fatty acids, managing the permeability states of the membrane is so very important. I think Justin and I were speaking earlier about the difference between the feminine and masculine energies within actual cell complexes. You know, and the membrane, in our conversation at least, was a representation of the masculine being protective to allow the feminine to be in a state of constant creation, constant life. But however, if the masculine becomes distorted, becomes too rigid, the feminine dies. Or if the masculine becomes emasculated, in other words, too permeable, then the cell starts to leak, and then the entire complexity of the bioresonance starts to become impaired as well. So I reckon minerals, and to that further point, the best way in order to get minerals is through high quality water. You've probably heard about hydration over and over again in the past, but not all water is created equal, and not all salt sources are created equal either. And it's really by identifying your mineral needs first and foremost that all your other added supplemental aids such as phospholipids, nutrient cofactors can have better effect. But without the right balance of minerals, you're going to continue to experience oxidative stress, which is going to compromise your fatty acid use and your membranes as a whole.
Cool.
What do you use to test minerals?
Well, there's a whole magnitude. Currently, I use a hair mineral tissue analysis, but there's new technology coming out of Israel where they use photospectrometry to be able to see the difference of electron densities within the mineral construct of hair, which means that there's less of a need to actually create analysis from the ash of the hair itself, to actually create analysis from live hair follicle. Well, not the hair follicles, well, in a more of a live state, should we say. What does that really mean in the quantum field? Now we're going down another rabbit hole.
What do you think about the metabolomics tests and the cellular testing specifically for this, because one of my concerns around hair mineral analysis is whether or not your body's holding on to minerals or excreting too many minerals, and your hair will then not necessarily get you a true representation of actually what's going on in the body, but give you what's going on coming out of the body. So, for instance, with mercury chelation therapy, Andy Cutler's work looked at hair mineral analysis, and if your minerals you're super deficient in over 5 minerals or excesses in 5 minerals, then you've got mercury messing with your mineral utilization, and therefore you're excreting too much or not enough. So it's an indication for me, but I'm just wondering what you think about the cellular testing specifically in this case.
I think it's very important to get a whole multitude of viewpoints when you're looking at cellular health. So even when it comes to minerals, not just necessarily looking into the quantity of what minerals are within the body, but also the reactions that they're creating in the body. And there's such a vast array of diagnostics out there that one can look into. I like to have organic acids as formulate a core part, which you can further validate findings from.
What is organic acids? Just quickly for the audience. Actually, show of hands, who knows what an organic acids test is? Okay, do you want to give a quick explanation on what an organic acids test, because I think it's quite interesting.
Absolutely. So acids basically facilitate change or conformational change. So organic acids is just that. It's biological acids that create rapid changes within the body. They normally consist of carboxyl, thiol, and alcohol groups, and they're the offshoot of metabolism, of which gets excreted through urinary matter, and we're able to determine exactly whether or not there's a balance between base reactions and acidic reactions that are occurring within our biochemistry.
So, in simple terms, very simple terms,
Sorry.
guys. No worries.
I get
Lost
in translation.
I like being the abstract guy here. It's a urine test. And it tells you all about.
I was trying to sell it to them, Chris.
And it's one of the core fundamental tests that you can do. In all honesty, if you work with most functional practitioners or whatnot, they will start with an organic acids test and a microbiome test and whatnot. But for me, it's the starting point, and it tells you so many things like yeast levels, bacteria levels, what's going on in the urine, and things like that. But yeah, okay, cool. So Ryan, what's your take on this specifically in terms of what we need to rebuild and repair?
So again, it all comes from the order and organization, even just producing energy. So when we're thinking about ATP, if you're not producing energy, and you're also not producing the byproducts of metabolism, which is water, also carbon dioxide, but also heat as well, infrared, then you're not going to be holding anything. You're not going to be investing in your system. Therefore, you need to be adding more things in to saturate all these sort of reactions and basically push you over a hill. And that's why you're adding in the minerals. Ideally, you'll be able to conserve them, utilize them, be very efficient. But obviously, there's loads of things underpinning that. Heavy metals, dysbiosis, just general stress, living in London. So with that, where the cell membrane comes in, it's basically like an antenna on the inside and communicating with the other cells of the body. But it's also bringing information in as well. So that's when we're thinking of hormones, that's when we're thinking of glucose, fatty acids as well. But also where stress basically plays out, or inflammation, reaction, oxygen species within the cell membrane. And that's typically the first thing to go when we think of calcium efflux. And then when calcium goes, we typically lose out, and we see that. What I like to do is blood tests first as a primary, and we see that with potassium disturbances, sodium disturbances, and then again, most people will be losing water as a result of this, peeing more than they need to. So yeah, you're flushing out more, you need more, but again, you're not fundamentally correcting the issue, which is all about producing energy. And we do that from essentially three pathways of the body. And then again, you can have various substrate use, so fats, carbohydrates, and you can even use protein as well for energy. But again, we can use an organic acid test to look at the biochemical reactions, what's working, and again, adding in a supplement that might work, or prioritizing a different food protocol. And then hopefully that will get you on the path, and then you can just go from there and connect the dots. So on a general thing, I would say most people are deficient or low in magnesium. But again, it's not that magnesium is, that the food is now suddenly dead of magnesium. It's that we need more of it. We're not producing enough energy for it. We're not investing enough in our cellular health, in our membranes, which is actually an investment within our metabolism. It takes a lot of energy to build the membrane, the integrity. So again, I'm a big component of eating shellfish, organ meats, and they're going to be providing like the backbone of nutrition, and essentially it comes with all these minerals with it.
So there's a lot of really complicated stuff here, as you can probably tell, right? These are all super smart. I just like bringing them together. But I think what I'm going to do is open it up to a couple of questions at this point, because I'm thinking in my head, should I be saying this a little bit more
And I think
simply?
we can rabbit hole on the next question.
And so I thought, what are the questions that you guys might have? So show of hands for any questions you got. that was the time. I was like, is there going to be any? Yeah, go for it.
Where I'm from, it's quite easy to go to your doctor and get a blood test done, and you get a few minerals on the blood test to test. Is that good enough to test your mineral status, or is it better to do a hair mineral analysis?
So did everyone hear that? No. Okay. So she said, are the standard doctor's tests good enough, really, to see if you've got the right minerals and stuff? So who wants to take this one?
I mean, I'll start.
Go for it.
So again, on their ranges and their, how to put it, lack of connecting the dots, no. But again, you see that and you connect it to different things as well. So again, looking just at electrolytes and seeing your potassium raised doesn't really mean that much. There could be various reasons why. Again, you're looking at kidney markers, looking at urea markers. Did you have a high intense training session? Did you eat a lot of protein that day? Did you have enough hydration? So there's a lot of context within blood work, but if you really understand it very well, it is amazing. And again, it's very elaborate, and the blood actually does not lie. Within the functional medicine paradigm of testing, it is fairly misleading, to be honest with you. And again, there's an observer effect with all these testing. And again, in the quantum physics world, is like as soon as you measure something, it's gone, it's finished, it's over. It doesn't exist again.
That's true.
So again, it's understanding it. I think it's good enough, but it's not gonna, like for magnesium in the serum, it's absolutely it's pointless. It doesn't mean anything. So again, utilizing organic acid tests you need to interpret the results fairly well, or basically pay someone to do it for you. And again, like you would pay someone to look after your car, or a financial investment. Why is it no different with your health? And again, everyone else, it's my day job to do this, but maybe you don't have the time to do all these, the learning and going into PubMed and unlearning everything as well, and always relearning. So again, it's using Justin, using other practitioners out there. There's many people that can help you. And again, it's your job to be the CEO, to make sense out of all this.
So I just want to jump in quickly there. I think from my experience on this, specifically with blood testing at the doctors, my personal opinion is they're shit to standard doctors, because they just go in and take a snapshot of several things. When you work with a functional practitioner, again, I could have saved 6 years on my health journey if I'd done this the functional way. Organic acids test at a standard GP is never done. Like, they don't even know what it is. Like, I teach them stuff. It's crazy, and I don't even know much.
Sorry, just like interpretation aside, if you had the best person to interpret the results, what's the best option? Is it hair mineral analysis?
I believe that blood chemistry analysis or functional blood chemistry analysis is a second step provisional diagnostic. It's not a differential diagnostic.
What does that mean?
So what that means is, so provisional diagnostic gives you a rough idea of what things are going on within the body and what systems might be compromised, but it doesn't give you the precise sources that are compromising
the rate
parts of the body.
It wouldn't give you the rate limiting factor.
No,
but it will give you clues of, especially like pathology or how your metabolism is working. If you understand carbon dioxide within the blood or things like this.
Exactly.
So again, a hair mineral analysis is not going to set you back much.
No.
But again, organic acid test is £185.
I think it's also bringing it full picture, right? How do you
Absolutely.
feel? Like when you go to your GP and you don't feel well, and they do a test and they say you're completely normal, and you leave with nothing, how do you feel?
You must also remember, like, doctors are trained in the understanding of disease, not the understanding of wellness, which is a very different paradigm to look how to look at health. I've been fortunate to work with progressive doctors who are breaking the mold just through their conventional education, who are taking that understanding of disease and bringing a bigger picture to the forefront of looking at the body as a complexity of systems that interact and interrelate with one another. So if you think of the body in that way, to try and look at it in a point of singularity, you're never going to get the solution that you're looking for. Or if you do, it's really sheer luck. You got to look at the body as a complex machine and look holistically, including utilizing a varied magnitude of diagnostics to do so.
Cool. So, another question. So, I feel like you had your hand up, so I'd just like to... Yeah, this lady here had her hand up for ages, I think. Yeah, but...
I just wanted to ask, to add to that question. If you look at blood mineral levels, blood serum, you really just get... you might actually have too much in your blood, but it basically just tells you what you have floating around in your blood. But it doesn't mean that it gets into your cells, which is, I guess, the point here.
But you need to understand that when you do the test. That's the whole point of measuring blood. You know it's not going to be inside your cell. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, let's take another question. Okay, lady at the back there. Yep.
I'm an NHS GP for 20 years and trained into functional medicine 5 years ago.
Right.
Perfect.
I still love my NHS, and I know people's expectations are very different. It's hard. 10 minutes to speak to a patient, do you know them? You know their family, you know their children, you just don't have time. And the way, because we have to work within the framework of guidelines and protocols, so it is extremely difficult for me to work in NHS and do the right thing.
Yeah.
So gradually I have found that balance. I tell my patients that blood vitamin D of 48 is considered normal, but the range is 50 to 250. If you can imagine how you feel when it's 100 and how you feel when it is 30, but I'm supposed to borderline normal. So I know I have just stood up because I love NHS. It's good when emergency medicine, your heart attack, your kidney failure, when you need cancer treatment, it all happens. But that baseline is missing because all we learn, physiology, biochemistry, all we have learned. But we come under the influence of pharmaceutical companies. Slowly we start forgetting, put the symptoms together, you get labeled a disease. There you go. This is your tablet. Off you go. And then it's somebody else's problem until you come back next time.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, I've been through the system, so...
Hard, but
Yeah.
we are at advantage because even as a functional medicine practitioner, I can assess within 10 minutes there's something serious going on in this patient or not. So it is happening in NHS, but NHS is so overstretched, is so much under pressure. We were 5 GP practice. Now I have resigned. We are 2 GPs.
Tim, do you mind if I interject here?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
I totally respect what you're doing. And what I'll say is I think most people in this room here have not only the intention to improve their own health, but also to pass on the knowledge to improve the lives of people that they love or people that they don't even know. And in that regard, we're all health avengers, which means that collaboration is necessary. I work with 3 other medical practitioners in South Africa. I'm not a doctor, but I work alongside them. And I think it's very important, and I think it's high time that as healthcare practitioners, we start to merge and integrate different thoughts and methodologies into a continuum that actually creates opportunity of improved health, rather than just managing disease.
I think this conference, I just love it because it's increasing awareness amongst people. Because when you tell patients that, what do you think was happening? Have you done anything? And they look at you, am I supposed to do something? You make me better. So that awareness is improving, which is brilliant. That's what I would love, that they become partners in their own health. And you guide them and they do it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Sorry, can I just ask a very quick question on the testing? So do we need to know what we want to achieve or what we want to hack, i.e. sleep,
Well-
before we get tested? And is there one test that can give us that baseline? Or
But
no?
I
Well-
think that's what cellular health is all about. If you're taking care of this, it's
Yeah.
going to take care of everything. So there is not one test for cellular health, and there's not one test for mitochondrial health. There's not one test for mineral deficiencies. It's a bit much bigger picture when you're looking at cellular health. And I think that's really what is important there, because it's not just about going in with one intention. It's about healthy longevity, healthy health span.
I mean, it's all about your goals and like refining them, getting clarity on that, and then obviously making sense out of all this, all the information here, and putting it together. And again, there's different paths to the same place, and again, it's N=1. It's biohacking. You got to make sense out of it and go for it. But again, like you can just get so overwhelmed with everything, you don't even know where to start as well.
Back to the other question.
So again, sleep. So that's looking at a broad range of like cortisol access with melatonin as an example.
No.
An organic acid test would be a good start with that, essentially.
To level up when you sleep.
Well, just to understand,
Right.
again, energy. You can't sleep well if you're not making energy.
So that acid test would be.
It would be a good start, yeah.
I think what's also very important is to not only identify what your goals are. So you may have a goal that you want to sleep better, but also to identify the associated symptoms that your body is experiencing that's compromising you achieving your goals.
The root cause.
And that's where like in-depth symptoms analysis, covering all major physiological systems is the first. I mentioned before the second step provisional diagnostic being bloods. The first step provisional diagnostics is a very good detailed symptoms analysis, which gives you a picture of how your physiology is performing.
And would that be the OMNOS half-priced gene test?
I don't know that
No.
test, and I don't.
I don't know it.
Well, I do one for free. So anybody that wants one, if you need, I'll send you the link. It's an online form. It's a questionnaire. It'll take you about 90 minutes to fill in because it's quite a lot of questions. But
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to
But it's got to be
analyze
done.
it. It is.
Understanding
It's
the case history,
necessary.
yeah, everything.
Of course.
Well,
It's-
if people can't be bothered to fill out a 90-minute form, which I've done, by the way, then I don't
We had
think
conversations about that as well.
Yeah, I did. Streamline it a little bit, bro. But if you can't be bothered to fill out a form that's going to be working for your benefit, then you're not really motivated enough to work on your health. But I think as an end user is that a lot of practitioners want a form of 20 minutes, 40 minutes, 60 minutes, and how much value do you get from it? And I think that comes down to selecting the right practitioner and that can really connect the dots and look between the lines. Okay, we've got like 7 minutes left, I think, something like that. So let's have a couple of quick questions around cellular health, and then we'll wrap up. Do you want to pick?
So I just wanted to ask something about like mineral supplementation, and you probably know about Morley Robbins and like I don't know his ideas of how to supplement or not supplement certain things. So how do you feel about supplementing the iron and calcium, stuff like that, and like potentially copper and zinc, and if that can mess up?
So I'm just going to repeat that. So how do you feel about supplementing with minerals is essential for you guys?
Specifically, yeah, like
Based on Molly Robbins' work.
Yeah.
Well, I think first and foremost, before deciding to supplement on any mineral that has a high potential for oxidative stress or creating oxidative stress in the body, you need to first determine whether or not there are any inhibitors to the utility of that mineral, such as oxalates being present in the body, as one example of many other. Compromised methylation rates can also have an impact onto the utility of minerals, creating them to be in a state of hyperreactivity as well. So in terms of mineral supplementation, again, I'll bring it back to keep it basic, rectify your intake of high quality water, and exclude factors that are compromising your body's cellular ability to have an uptake of minerals into the intracellular space. It's one thing to consume something, another thing to utilize it. And you've got to figure out what are the rate limiting factors that aren't enabling you to do so. I don't know if that answers you or not, or maybe it's a vague question. The answer is drink better water. Drink better water before worrying about like mineral supplements. And if that doesn't work, then maybe you can go down that route.
I just want to jump in quickly on this because I talk about the fundamentals of health, which is what my talk was about yesterday. And number one is having optimized sleep. Number 2 is optimized hydration. And the fundamentals of health is all built around everything for optimizing your health, the 80% of it. You need the 20% with working with guys like these, but every single thing works towards cellular health. The right sun exposure or light exposure, the right hydration, and clearing out the toxins and making sure it's remineralized. Everything I talk about all the time, as I said yesterday, is just curating the best stuff from these authors and specialists and putting it into a distilled form so that people can have access to it very easily. So light, magnetism, all of these things.
Relationships with yourself and others, very important.
Brings it all together. And I think, obviously, Jess is from Body Bio, as we said originally, and I said about how I stumbled across phospholipids with these guys, and I've been using it. I love it. I take it with every single meal, except for the last 2 days, because I forgot to bring it with me, unfortunately. But I take it with every meal, because if your cell membranes aren't healthy, you're not going to get nutrients in the cell, and you're not going to get toxins out of the cell, and regardless of everything else you do, you're not going to be optimally performing. And that's why Body Bio are here naturally, because I absolutely love it. And they've got the minerals, they've got the magnesium, they've got the phospholipids, which helps with your cell membrane health, which helps with your overall health, so that your engines can fire properly. So that's why it's so important. So you should really try the and this, I feel like this is a plug. It's not. It's just genuine. You should try phospholipids.
Well, if I can add a further emphasis to that.
Some this morning.
I did, and I will say one of the biggest contributing factors to compromise mental function as one aspect of health is the accumulation of aldehydes, which we are seeing to be an increasing rise in most people. So to give you guys a quick little summary, aldehydes inhibit an enzyme called methionine synthase, which is a very important enzyme for all your methylation pathways. Methylation is required in order for you to be able to produce neurotransmitters. And then acetylation is how you transport those neurotransmitters. So if you don't have the right balance in production, you're going to feel depressed. Now, phospholipids play a huge role in the activity of an enzyme called aldehyde dehydrogenase, which is necessary to break down and eliminate aldehydes from. So if you are having issues with depression, if you're having issues with chronic fatigue, inflammation, phosphatidylcholine is very beneficial. High quality, because it's not all created the same, unfortunately, guys. So be careful which choice you take into account.
And especially for females with fertility, or even for
PCOS for sure.
Or even to their estrogen metabolism as well.
Definitely, because of the direct impact that it's going to have there on prolactin and the subsequent impact that it will have on progesterone production as well in the corpus luteum. So most certainly, and the further impact of thyroid.
In summary, it's no worries. Number one, it truly is my number one supplement, which is why there's even a stage called the Body Bio stage. It is awesome. So
thank you.
Try it out. All right.
I'll let everybody try it if you want to come to the booth.
We've got to wrap up. I think I'm being shouted at that we're done for the stage time now. And are we good? Do we need to wrap up? 1 minute. 1 minute. Okay. One question. Go for it.
Good question.
Without the sun, because obviously we do have pretty white skies quite a lot in it. Whether that is enough.
Ryan. Follow me on Instagram and you'll see that this is his live. Yeah, I mean it's.
But it really So again, the body is a large vacuum of water, and again, if you're not hydrated well intracellularly, then you're not going to be basically able to download the light, and light is a form of energy. It excites electrons essentially, and again, too much is damaging. There's no doubt about it. So again, your health is a reflection of how much light you can download, and again, with that, we know that nutrients, vitamins get excited via light as well. Riboflavin becomes active. We have vitamin A on our skin and eyes, basically acting as a photoreceptor, and in our gut as well. And again, how your nutrition relates to that is very important. Because again, if you went to the equator and sat in the sun, you'd be like a lobster. So again, there's a seasonal variation, and you got to be in it, even in the winter, to accustom to the power of the light in the summer. And again, there's various factors. It's not just all about light; it's all about cold as well. And again, you can't have light without darkness. You got to have that darkness to repair from the light processes as well.
So the question was,
How much an hour?
see, when you're a mega brain like these guys.
So I mean, the key times of the day would be the morning. Okay? And then if you look at all endogenous populations around the world, they don't spend a lot of time outdoors in the midday. It's only the people in the westernized world who sit on the beach and just sit there and put sun cream on.
You don't want to go in an African sun during the middle of the
But
day.
again, it's like
not
I can handle that.
Yeah.
I can go and I don't wear cream. I protect my face with a hat, but literally I don't get sunburn. And again, it's not all about the seed oils and all that belief. It's just about the way your body is an antenna and picks up all this energy and makes sense out of it.
Cool. We're going to wrap up there, I think, guys. So you can go to the Body Bio booth, check out the phospholipids, and then Ryan Carter is at Levite on Instagram. He's got like ridiculous amounts of followers, and he shares this stuff every day, so you should really follow him. And then Justin as well. Thanks, guys.